All right, well, should we get started?
Absolutely.
Okay, we've got lots of information to cover. So if you're coming in and out today, no worries. We have lots of information to share. If you have to take off a bit early, you can always follow up with Susan or I to follow up. We can also share the slides we've prepared today, so no worries. We'll find a way to pass those on to you. So welcome to our session. Today we are looking at job searching, some tips and techniques for a successful job search. First and foremost, welcome to Holland College.
Absolutely welcome.
Congratulations on your acceptance. That's a very big accomplishment, and we're very excited to welcome you to our beautiful campuses in just a few weeks' time. So let's perhaps introduce ourselves first. My name is Haley, and I work at the college as an employment and career advisor. My physical office is located at the Prince of Wales campus in Charlottetown. But I also am the go-to career support for the programs that are at the Summerside Waterfront campus, the West Prince campus in Alberton, and then our Georgetown Center. So you will find me in person, usually at least minimum, once a month minimum, sorry, but never feel like you need to wait until that day to meet in person. We can always set up a time outside that campus visit and connect at any time. So I'll be seeing you at different times throughout the year and looking forward to it.
And hi, I'm Susan Shaw, and I'm also the Employment and Career Services Advisor at the Holland College Tourism and Culinary Center. So anyone in culinary, pastry, hotel and restaurant, tourism, travel, marketing, data analytics, and project management, I'm the contact person here on campus. And I'm here every day, all day, 5 days a week. And it's really nice to have you join us.
Right on. So today's session, as per the title suggests, many of you may be seeking a part-time job while you're studying. This is also very relevant information for your long-term career goals. So when we think about in a year or two, once you're graduating and you're looking for that next step, a lot of the resources and strategies we'll review today will be relevant. So I think there's something here for everyone today. One thing that we'll mention, a few housekeeping pieces. So we have lots of information to cover. We'll do our best to keep an eye on the chat, but just in the interest of time, I think we'll save questions until the end. You might also find that some of the information we cover, kind of answers your question as we go. And one other piece to mention is that we often get a lot of questions and inquiries from incoming students about on-campus jobs. We will say that while there's, sometimes a few positions available on campus, often places like the library, food services, athletics, they're not as common. So today's session is going to be focusing on resources and places to look that relate to jobs off campus. The great thing though about Holland College, all of our centers are quite centrally located within their respective communities. It's very common for our students, past and present to be working off campus. So just keep in mind that will be the focus of today's session.
So we're here to help you with your job search and career planning needs, both part-time and full-time. We're also going to help advise you on job search skills, resume writing, interview preparation, networking, labor market information, and any other career topics that we feel would be an asset to you in your career planning. In addition to that, we have career workshops, employer information sessions, and drop-in support sessions with both Haley and myself. And again, we're always trying to be creative and bring up new and exciting career services support to you and in your planning process.
You'll find our events happen in person at different campuses, virtual. So always keep a close eye on your email and social media as we share what's going on throughout the year.
As I can see, many of you are coming in with work permits. And for work permits and guidelines, I would recommend that you contact the international office for any questions that you may have with regard to your permits and work eligibility here in Canada. And you can reach them at international@hollandcollege.com. It is your responsibility to be knowledgeable of and abide by the employment regulations as stipulated by your work permit. If you have any concerns at all, please feel free to contact Haley or myself, and we will direct you to the people that can assist you with this.
Yeah, and we'll share again at the end as a reminder, but you may have been receiving some emails that there's actually a session just like this happening this coming Friday that is specific to different documents and needs that are specific to international students. So if you have any questions, for example, about permits work eligibility, that would be a great session to check out as well.
So go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that we'll cover lots of information, but we're kind of breaking it down in different sections. So before we start thinking about where do I find a job, how do I apply, we're going to go through a few pieces of information to consider even before we start applying. So this is before the job search really starts to happen.
Complete a self-audit. And what is this? Before you even launch your job search, ask yourself, how much time do I have available to work? When am I available to work? And does this change anything in my career planning needs? Do I have other commitments that need to be prioritized, i.e. School projects, etc.? How will I get to work? Will this affect my options? What kind of job employment am I looking for? Will it be directly sector related, or just looking for a job to help with your income through the school year? Use this reflection to refine your research and get to know where your location is, your accommodation, and how many employers are located in the vicinity. Remember, your answers to these questions and others will change once you begin your program. And we strongly recommend that you get settled into your classes, understand what your schedule is before you sign up to any job offers of employment. And again, use this reflection when you arrive. It's important to get your bearings, get your feet on the ground, become comfortable with your school, the school projects, your schedule, and then find a job that is going to work comfortably within that time frame. Update your application documents. Well, that's pretty important. So you've all probably have resumes and cover letters, but we would like you to please update them and have them ready when you come to meet with Haley or myself. And please remember to add the program that you're coming into, your Holland College program, with recent work experiences and accomplishments. And be specific when you start looking for a job. Resumes must be tailored to every job that you apply for. A one-size-fits-all does not work. Your resume must reflect skills and duties as outlined in the job description. How else would an employer know you are qualified for a position? And also really important here in Canada is connect with your references to let them know that you're job hunting. And also continue that connection once you do start hunting, so they know where you're looking. And so they're kind of abreast to what you're doing. So that's really important. So if you're coming in from other countries or other provinces in Canada, I would recommend highly that you connect with your references. And if at all possible, get a letter of reference just for time purposes. Sometimes when we're dealing with different time zones, it's difficult for employers to get in touch with your references. So if you can, get a letter of reference.
In this session today, we won't be going into detail on resume writing. There'll be lots of that happening in September and October on campus through different sessions, but really can't emphasize enough how important making that document specific to the job is. We get that feedback from employers all the time. And often, if we see a student who says, I've applied for, over 30 jobs and I'm not hearing anything, often that's the first opportunity we find, is that we're only using one resume to apply to a variety of jobs. So if you're applying to working in retail versus customer service, hospitality, a security position, those all use different skills and qualities and pieces of knowledge and experience. So that's why you really need to take the time to kind of update those as you go. And so if you have questions about your resume, there's lots of resources on our office's SAM page, which we'll talk about at the end. And again, you'll see different opportunities for resume support once you arrive in the fall.
So the most important thing is to get organized, keep a comprehensive job application tracker to manage and organize your application. So key details to tracking are clearly note that the position you applied for and the date of application, record the platform or method used to submit your application, Work PEI, Indeed, in person, or other methods of application. Also, keep track of the specific version of your resume and cover letter that you've used for each application, as referred to by Haley here. And document any interactions or conversations you've had with contacts within the company. This will provide invaluable insights and help you personalize future communications.
And so to kind of build off that example, that a student comes in, I've applied for 30 jobs, probably the first question we're going to ask you is, well, when did you apply?
Yeah.
And when you're managing that many job postings and applications, versions of your resume, it's hard to manage it all and across different platforms. So for that reason, having that tracker is so, so important.
And so save a copy of each resume and cover letter that you used and name the documents accordingly. For example, your name, Joe, let's say it's Joe Doe, and resume / grocery / clerk, and the date, September 2023. Download a copy of the job description and please staple them together so you know particularly what that resume is referring to, what job it's referring to. And this is really essential for interview preparation. There's a lot of research that goes into being successful at landing an employment opportunity. And so the more you know about your prospective employer, the more empowered you will be to make great decisions in the places that you choose to work.
And another reason to download is sometimes you can find it. Let's say you get screened in for an interview and it's 3 weeks past, and sometimes you can still find that job posting online, but sometimes the companies take them down.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to be caught in an awkward moment where you're going into an interview and you can't remember what the job is focusing on. So
Yes.
Another reason to always download a copy. So those are some things to consider when we talk about, before applying, before, handing out copies of your resume. The next section that we're going to look at are different job boards. And we'll take some time to review what some of these pieces are. There's a lot out there. So, by no means are these the only 4 job boards you should be looking at. But these tend to be the ones that I think will be most relevant and the most helpful ones to you while job searching here in PEI. So the first one we have is the Holland College Student and Alumni Job Board. So this is our very own, and you'll have all these links in the slides. Can someone in the chat, can you let me know, do you see Holland College Student and Alumni Jobs right now? Or are you still seeing the slides? Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Krishna.
Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. So this is our baby. This launched last year, the Holland College Student and Alumni Job Board. This is available off of the main Holland College website, so you would be able to access this right now. If you just go to hollandcollege.com, you would get to the main site. Under here, there's these different columns. So under current students, this is the link. You can click student and alumni jobs. Anytime Susan or I are asked by an employer, we'd like to share this job with your students, with your alumni, what's the best way we can reach them? This is where we are sending people. So this really is our main platform for sharing job opportunities. What you'll see, there's the employer and then the job title. It indicates what type of job. Think about this as the length. So is it a full-time permanent job? Is it a casual position? Is it a contract? The category. So this would relate to kind of what department your program falls into. And then the closing date. This is how it's organized. So the job with the most upcoming closing date is listed first, and then we go backwards. It's kind of a slower time for hiring right now. So there's not, there's still lots of great opportunities on here, but I think in kind of springtime, we almost had double or triple. So one feature you can also take a look at as well is filtering. So let's say you are taking business administration and you want to see what roles apply there. You can select that filter and it will extract those specific opportunities. But like with all job boards, this is something we'll say for the others. Never limit yourself to only that one filter because, there's going to be some similarities.
Yes.
You might see a position classified as community and social services that, maybe you have a background or previous training in that relates. So, what you see on our website is not determined by what program you're enrolled in. You can see all postings, but that filter is there to help you just kind of condense and organize things. One other thing we'll mention is that this just got launched last year. It's still quite new. And so we are still promoting and creating awareness about it. So if you hop on one day and you think, oh, there's nothing really, related to my field of study or what I want to do, promise us you'll keep checking
Yes,
back
absolutely.
because it will only grow and grow in the future. So this is always, I would say, kind of the first stop to look when it comes to employment. The next job board we have to share is Work PEI. We are super, super fortunate to have a resource like this. When you log on, you're going to see kind of that main job board. Sometimes there's kind of more population specific or industry specific job boards. So for example, there's one here that's dedicated to students. My advice there is always be looking at both because sometimes I think jobs can, slip through the cracks and get posted on vice versa. So it's a great place to check things out. But in addition to job boards, Work PEI is just a really great resource for all things job searching and career planning. The beauty of it is that it's exclusive to PEI. We're going to look at Indeed after this. Indeed is also great because it's so well known. I think it's used probably worldwide, I'd say, which offers some benefits. But what's nice about Work PEI, we don't have to worry about filtering through so many different things. It's all exclusive to PEI. A few tips in terms of making the most of this site here. If you were to click join, you can create an account as a job seeker. If you were to apply to a role on Work PEI, chances are you're going to need an account. But this profile function is another way to get noticed by employers. Companies and organizations, they also create an account and they can browse through that job seeker database. You have to give permission. You give consent, yes or no, I want my profile viewable. But it's just another great way. We often hear that sometimes before they post a role, they think, well, let me look through this database, this directory. Maybe there's some job seekers that kind of fit the skills and qualifications I'm looking for. So it's just a great way to always continue to be noticed. Just one reminder, you have to keep updating your profile as you go. It's not going to know that, okay, they started in September 2023, so they're graduating next year. Part of the profile is indicating when you're available for work. So just make a reminder, if you do have an account, maybe every 4 months or something, it's a good idea to hop on and check. One other thing for today, again, there's lots of great gems and helpful pieces on Work PEI. But another great piece for your research is if you go under LMI, this would stand for Labor Market Information, you'll see PEI employers. So this is a database of all the companies who have used Work PEI. It strips away all the job postings. One of our pieces of advice for you today, kind of between now and when you get started, take advantage of this time to research the workforce. Think about what companies might be a good fit for you. You could do this by location. If you know you're going to be living in Stratford and you want to take a look at who is available nearby, you could go that way. Maybe you want to do sector. Perhaps you're coming into our computer information systems program. I could select information technology as a sector, and then it will extract all the companies that have chosen to identify with that there. So Work PEI, great source for local job opportunities, but so much more. You'll see us promoting Work PEI laws throughout the year, and likely having their team visit our campuses every now and then. So I think it's one that you will take a look at. Isaac, thank you for that reminder. If right now you happen to be outside of Canada, you might have issues accessing Work PEI. I believe that's a firewall piece that's built in. I remember this happening last summer, but when you arrive to PEI, I think even within Canada, you should be able to access it no problem. And it's just workpei.ca. Thank you. I forgot to mention that. So next up would be Indeed. Chances are you may have heard of Indeed. It's certainly used in a lot of different countries by, large employers, small employers. They too have really great resources. We often share blog posts and articles in terms of what they've written. This is kind of where you're putting in the job title, the keyword, the company, and where. And then there's also these different filters. So if you're checking every few days, you can go by date posted and kind of organize them that way. I find with Indeed, there's a lot of variety, a lot of types of sectors and employers. So I do find you need to be patient with it. And like I said earlier, because it's used so widely, even though sometimes you put in Prince Edward Island, jobs from Halifax or BC kind of slip through the cracks. So it's just one to be careful of, but definitely Indeed is very well known. And especially for kind of larger, maybe chain companies, I think you might be more likely to find those jobs on here. And then last but not least, another resource would be the Government of Canada Job Bank. So although this is kind of managed and housed by the federal government of Canada, think of it like Indeed. It's another public job board. It's not specific to government jobs. That exists. So if you want to look into that someday, let us know. So same idea, what type of job you're looking at and where. So we could start by putting in Charlottetown. And then this will pull out all of the relevant jobs. The job bank has been around for some time, so I think it's certainly well used by employers. Same idea, here's a job to be a property administrator, to a bouncer at a local restaurant and bar, to an optometrist, to home support. So there's always a lot of variety, lots to look through. So you just want to make sure you're really, kind of being patient and giving yourself enough time to look through the different results. Like Indeed as well, there's all these different filters that you can use. Similar to Work PEI, actually, they have some really great resources on labor market information, career quizzes if you're thinking about what occupations would be a good fit. Another just kind of great resource for career planning overall. So definitely check it out. So that is a very quick overview on job boards. And again, if once you get logged on, you're just feeling like you're not finding the right results or you're confused, let us know. This is totally the kind of thing that we would meet with students on. So never hesitate to reach out. When it comes to using job boards and really making the most of them, your keywords are going to be really, really important. So that's what you're putting into those search bars as you're going through different listings. Be strategic with them. Use many. If you only use one very specific job title, you're probably going to be quite narrowed and maybe excluding different opportunities. So try multiple and try different words. Some ways you could go about that. First would be something like the employment type. So without even thinking about what sector, what type of job, think of this as, maybe the hours per week. So is it part-time? Is it a student job? Is it casual? And then you're picking out those types of jobs from a wide variety of companies and sectors. Another one might be the classification. So kind of thinking about, I guess, the level of a position. So again, it's not really related to what you're studying, but if you want to be an advisor, a coordinator versus a manager, director, that's another way that I find is really helpful in getting a lot of results. And then third would be location. And this strategy, would be starting quite broad and then getting more specific. But given that, PEI, we're a small but mighty province, we can do this in PEI and not be too overwhelmed. So, if you're going to be living in Cornwall, maybe that's an area you want to start with, or Summerside, Kensington, whatever it might be. Thinking about getting a little bit more specific to your field of study, one tip there would be think about root words. You may have heard about that if you're ever doing like library research skills. So let's say you were taking our photography and videography program, rather than putting in a very specific job title, try things like video. So just getting that root word. Or words that relate to the job that you want. So if you are coming into our environmental science technology program, that could mean words like soil, nature, technician, birds. I know it sounds a little bit random, but whenever they're generating those results, it's not only by job title, it's also on the job description. So think about the jobs that the words and the terms that you would be finding as part of that job ad. It's another great way to search. And as you're going through these and you're finding, oh yeah, okay, that word really, really helps me. Make a list, make a note. Job searching isn't something we do all the time. So the next time you come to look for an opportunity, you'll have that list of words that's prepared. One other strategy related to job boards would be creating alerts. So with the exception out of our job board at Holland College, and hopefully we'll be there one day, but on Work PEI, Indeed, and Job Bank, you can set up alerts. So what you're doing is that you are saying, based on this keyword, this type of search, I want you to send me an email daily or weekly or monthly with positions that relate to that search. And so you'll have that saved, and then it's kind of putting your job search into autopilot. You're getting emails in on a regular basis for words and positions that relate to your interests. So this image here is an example of what mine looked like. I was kind of laughing because I think I took this screenshot a couple of years ago. I had 23. I think in my job alerts folder right now, I have like 300. So it's a great way to get a lot of information. Um, Especially maybe you're not job searching. Maybe you find a position that, you're satisfied with. But if you just want to stay up to date on your industry and trends and new companies that might be hiring, this is just a nice passive way to have roles coming in so you can keep up to date. All this to say, this is a great way to stay on top of information, but it should never replace your active job search. It's going to be smart at pulling out those keywords you've put in, but chances are it's not going to capture everything. So always think of this as an enhancement to your job search, not necessarily a replacement. And then one final note on the emails, because like I said, I think as of this morning, I had over 300 job alerts. Really quickly, that's going to become overwhelming in your inbox. So my tip for you there would to be create a subfolder if you were in your inbox, and maybe this is your Holland College account once you have access. Create a subfolder. Maybe you want to call that job alerts. And then as something comes in, you can right click that email and create a rule. So you'll see there here. So what I've done is anytime I get an email from Indeed, because 99% of the time it's going to be a job posting, I have that going right into my job alerts folder. So that way it's not taking over your inbox and you're missing important information from your learning managers and other updates from the college. So once again, if you need some help with that, please let us know. So we've covered job boards, which, are very helpful. On a job board, it is signaling that a company has an open position they want to fill, but it's not the only way and the only place to look for jobs. So next, we're going to talk about some sources related to specific companies that are also important to check regularly.
So communal versus company job sites. Many employers on PEI will only post jobs to their company website. So you need to research some of those island employers, especially you see across the top of the slide here, Walmart, Sobeys, Home Depot. There's also Superstore, Indigo, Best Buy. A lot of these particular venues hire students on a part-time basis, which is great when you're a student and you need to juggle your schedule a bit. They're very agreeable to working with you in that. So this is, you're going to find a lot of information on especially larger chain companies like these particular companies. And when you're looking through, identify the employers that you're interested in and become familiar with what their products and services are, where they're located, and how they post their job opportunities. When you arrive here, we have additional employer websites that we can share with you that are more sector specific. So anyway, just for now, I would certainly look at these particularly big box stores where a lot of our students are working part-time while attending school.
Yeah, and like Work PEI, for example, is a really great resource. But with these kind of, international, national chains, chances are that maybe some of the postings that are going up that are based out of Charlottetown or Summerside, they might be posted from someone who works out of Toronto or Calgary. So they might not be as familiar with some of our more local provincial sites. So, at the beginning, we said, think about where are you going to be, what's around you, and making sure to check those websites too. And I know you're thinking, wow, there's a lot of places to look for jobs. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. There's certainly a lot out there. Very similar to looking at, an individual company's careers page. Same goes for their social media. And I know I've found this to be especially true, a trend when it comes to smaller businesses and nonprofit organizations. And again, if you think about it from the employer's perspective, if they're a small business and they're taking on a lot of different roles, it might be a little bit more time consuming to post an official job ad on a website versus putting something up on their social media profile, on their Facebook page or Instagram. So just like Susan mentioned about, kind of identifying companies that you'd be interested in working in, checking their websites, do the same for social media. And just get into a habit of checking regularly. Maybe it's something you do weekly, every other week, but it's just a nice way to stay connected.
Mhm.
Um, and another tip too, if you're thinking about kind of longer term career goals, maybe again, you found yourself kind of a part-time job that works for right now, but something related to your field of study. One example I can think of in PEI, and I know someone said they are studying bioscience, there's industry associations. So the PEI Bio Alliance would be an example of that. And they do networking sessions, they do presentations from employers. So that's just a great way to kind of follow along on those opportunities. And then you can join an event or a session that maybe isn't about finding a job, but you are getting connected, you're networking and learning really key information that might help your longer term career goal. So those are some strategies, kind of specific to company resources that apply to those each individual organizations. There's a few more strategies we'll offer you today to support your job search as well.
So in-person searching. This is one of my favorite spots that I recommend students really think about approaching their career planning, or whether it's part-time, full-time jobs, to in-person, knocking on the door. And this is a terrific way to unlock the hidden market. Um, it's a strategy that when you are bound to geographic areas, an opportunity to make a lasting impression on the employer. I would definitely recommend the first thing you do, and Haley and I can be of assistance in this, and it depends on the particular employer and job posting, etc. But if you can get in touch with the decision maker, find out who the person is that is in charge of hiring, that's a wonderful addition to applying for a job, because then you can address and target your cover letter to the specific person that you're applying for a position with. Be prepared with a copy of your cover letter and resume, and absolutely do your homework. Understand what the services, products are of that particular company, what types of roles do they hire for, when are they looking, and just because there is a possibility there is no job site, or pardon me, position posted on their job site, employers are always looking for good people. So if you have the name of the person and a resume and cover letter that's targeted to them, and you go knock on their door, and it's important to visit with them or approach them at an appropriate time. For example, if you're a culinary student and you want to go and apply at a particular restaurant, you certainly wouldn't go during their business hours, which would be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. So you would go in between, let's say, 10:30 and 11, or in the afternoon from 2:30 to 4. That's really important because it's showing that you have respect for that particular employer, and also understand their busy periods during the day. So again, I cannot stress how important it is to do your homework and know who these employers are that you're applying for. It also very important because you're going to meet some of these people face to face very quickly, and you're passing them your resume. So practice your elevator pitch. Be ready to clearly articulate who you are, what you have to offer and what you are seeking. And then also, in addition, let me just bring your attention back to your cover letter and resume. Be sure to have your contact information there. You can pass out a resume and cover letter and you don't have your contact cell number or email, then there's no way they can get in touch with you. So that's really important. Remember, in this process, you are marketing yourself. So you want to give the employer every bit of information that you can in a clear and precise manner. So remember, in-person job searching is most appropriate for companies that are open to the public. Private offices, not so much. But again, that's where Haley and myself can advise you, because we do know our market here and we can advise you accordingly.
And this is a great example of another way we can help. I
Mhm.
know earlier this week I met with a student, and this is exactly what we focused on for our half hour together. It was about, what am I going to say when I stop by in person with my resume? So that is a great example of something that we can help you with in a one-to-one appointment. Another strategy, kind of in person, would be referrals. So thinking about your friends, your roommates, your classmates. And again, these are connections that are going to grow as you get started. Another reason, maybe just to wait till you get settled for a little bit in September. Ask, where are they working? Where are they located? Having a referral, there's a lot of studies out there that show that's one of, kind of the best ways, or most common ways people get into a company. It might help speed up the hiring process and boost your application. So if you apply to something on Indeed, and then, your friend who's working there tells the hiring manager, my friend applied, I think they'd be, a really great worker. I'm just letting you know. Your names kind of come front of mind for them. So that might be a way to assist you. But again, like in person, it really should be used appropriately, shouldn't replace actively seeking jobs. And when you think about it, these are going to be people in your personal, kind of more social network, and you never want to put people in a compromising position. So, here are some questions that might be a good way to go about this. Do you happen to know if your company is hiring? Do you have suggestions for my application? Would you consider passing my name along? The wrong way to go about this would just be saying, can you get me a job? Because, unless they're the hiring manager, like Susan mentioned, the person making the decisions, chances are they're not. So you just want to be thoughtful about how you go about that process.
For Canadian students, I might also add to this that um, you ask previous employers, and if you haven't been in the workforce, maybe a coach, or you're a music teacher, or someone that's known you in the past, because every these jobs are all opportunities are in a network, and people know people know people. So if you do have a Canadian work experience or past experience as an athlete, a musician, or what volunteer, there's different areas that you may have gained experience and made these connections. Go back to your connections and ask them for referrals. You never know, your coach could know someone that is the head of the bioscience center here in Charlottetown. So, and we'll talk more about that, and we'll have sessions on networking and how to go back and deal with your references and what to look for when you're asking for a reference letter or a reference and referral.
Yeah.
So we'll give you the specifics on it.
Yeah. And even to add to that, abroad experience, I remember meeting with a student previously who was from the Bahamas, I believe, and they worked at McDonald's. And I said, well, great, there's lots of McDonald's here in PEI as well, and they could make that connection. And already the employer here is thinking, okay, well, they know the work, they know the tools. So maybe too, for students who are coming from outside of Canada, if you have some work experience, there could be some transfer opportunities.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a testimony to your skills and that are transferable from one country to another. So if you've worked in any sector and you have go to your employer and ask for a written reference letter. And even if they don't speak English, that can, if it's sent to you by email, that can be translated to English.
Yeah.
So there's all possible ways to get referrals. And we'll talk more about that when you arrive.
Definitely. So the golden question of job searching. I've applied, now what? And I think this is where sometimes we forget about what we can do and how to strategize for the next step. Following up on a job application is really, really important. It shows that you are committed, that you're serious about a position. At the same time, though, there's a fine line. It's a bit of a delicate dance in terms of showing that commitment, that level of investment versus maybe coming across as pushy or, being annoying at times. And it really varies. It's hard for us to give a real kind of clear black and white definition of what that looks like because it's going to vary. It's always specific to that context. So another example of something that Susan and I could help you navigate. So one example, Indeed, we've mentioned, is big. They're getting lots and lots of applications. If any time you're applying something, especially a public company, you're applying at Best Buy or Walmart or HomeSense, it's really nice practice to follow up within a day or two with an in-person, a copy of your resume. I can say, hello, my name is Haley. Again, at an appropriate time based on the employer. My name is Haley. I recently applied for the store clerk position on Indeed, but I wanted to say hello in person, give you a copy of my resume. If you need any information from me, please let me know. Another example of a follow-up might be, applying to something on Work PEI, but then, giving an email to the employer. So I submitted my application on Work PEI, just wanted to share a copy of my resume with you directly. Again, any further information questions, please let me know. It could also be inquiring about the status of a hiring process. Maybe you submitted a job and 2-3 weeks have passed. As a job seeker, it's okay to follow up and ask, where things are at. Are you still being considered? The key part there is that it's 2 to 3 weeks. It's not 2 or 3 days. But again, that timeline or how you go about that might change based on the type of employer. So if you're ever unsure about how to follow up, please let us know. That's something we can help you out with. And again, another reason why tracking all of your applications is so important. If you come into our offices and say, I applied for this, but I haven't heard back, again, we're going to ask, well, when was it that you applied? And if you've been sending out, dozens and dozens of applications, it's really easy to get all that information, just to keep track of it all. So for that reason, we can't recommend having that tracker in place.
If I might add here, if you are fortunate enough to connect with the hiring manager or the decision maker of that particular company, and you have a chat and say, as Haley said, I've submitted my resume. I'm just following up to see if you've received it. And a lot of times they, oh yes, but I haven't had the opportunity to review it as yet. And I would recommend highly that you say, would you mind if I gave you a call back? And when would that be appropriate? Usually they'll tell you a week or 10 days. And it's a great way to appeal and make an impression with the employer. Because if the employer says, call me in 5 days, and you call them in 5 days, him or her, they're going to remember that you're following up. And I do know that a lot of employers have said to me, make sure your students are tenacious. And as Haley that doesn't mean being pushy. It means being consistently showing that you're eager and keen to have a follow-up and pursue the opportunity of possibly meeting with that employer and having an interview. So it does leave a very good impression. And again, if you're not sure or you're shy about this, then approach either Haley or myself and we'll help you through the process.
Yeah. And sometimes too, there's signs on the job description. You might see a posting say, you know, only successful candidates will be contacted for an interview. That to me is, you know, a good message that, okay, it's clear about how communication looks. So again, another reason also to be saving those job descriptions too. It's unfortunate that we have to talk about employment scams as part of this session, but the reality is that they happen, and if anything, they're becoming more common, they're becoming more sneaky. So they're prevalent. We certainly do see them. And some studies will show that they're particularly, you know, relevant to job seekers, you know, kind of in their young to mid 20s. So students often fall into that demographic. And public sites like Indeed are often targeted. You know, so the message here is not don't use Indeed to look for jobs or apply to opportunities, but just be mindful, I think, how much information you're sharing and what might be at risk there. So if you upload a copy of your resume, something to maybe consider is not putting your complete mailing address, rather just putting Georgetown PEI as your location. Maybe you only choose to put a email address versus a telephone number. And again, this is specific to those kind of much larger online sites. LinkedIn, their job board would be something similar. Just always be really, it's like posting to social media, right? How much information am I sharing and am I comfortable with that? Um, when it comes to identifying an employment scam, some red flags to be mindful of. One would be upfront fees. I really can't think of a legitimate job where you, as the worker, need to pay money up front. But that's something that happens. They say it's remote, so we want you to pay us $1,500 as a holding fee. You'll purchase all of your equipment, your computer, and then that will get recorded on your first paycheck. That just doesn't happen as a worker, you having to pay. So anytime a monetary commitment is needed, that's a red flag for sure.
Definite red flag.
Jobs that seem too good to be true or just a strange fit. One example actually that we came across was a job from a really big PR firm that has offices in really large North American cities. And a job came in as a mail clerk at a PEI. So again, I was like, that just seems very strange, that position for that company based on their location, or things that are just too good to be true. And I see these ones quite a bit. So it's advertising, remote job, work from home, 10 hours a week, and you're getting paid $2,000 a week. That sounds amazing. That sounds like a great gig, but
Too good to be
too
true.
good to be true, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think our best advice, again, it's not super black and white because it all depends, but if something seems off, it probably is. I think that's our best advice we can give to you. Again, you can chat with one of us, someone you trust at the college or a friend, coworker, whoever it might be, and ask other folks to kind of help guide you there. There is, you know, different resources out there that you can submit scams. You can report them and follow up on ones that have already been identified. And you'll find the link to the Atlantic branch of Better Business Bureau. I missed one point too. Government jobs, they are never going to charge you to access a job board. Lots of people are interested in working in government. So if you're finding something that requires a fee to access jobs, you know that is not legit.
So top pre-arrival job search tips. We'd recommend that prior to you arriving to join us here at Holland College, that you take time to research the PEI workforce and identify potential employers. Now, we identified some for you, and you can also connect. Our information is up front on this presentation. We can also give you recommendations of other employers for you as well. And it's important, though, before you jump at anything, where are you going to be located, and where are those employers? So again, when you get here and you have a list and you're looking for an additional list, we can help you by simply asking you where you're located and give you recommendations in employers who are in close proximity to where you're living and going to school. Be sure to update your resume and cover letter and identify with your possible references. And as I said earlier, if you can get a letter of reference, doesn't matter whether you're from Canada or international. It's a testimony to who you are, your work ethic, and having that support from a past employer is a huge plus in your application process. And reflect also when you get here on what jobs you're seeking from a part-time job and what type of commitment you can realistically commit to. That's again, understanding what your schedule is, what your workload is as a student. These are all very important. So again, we're here to help you and advise you accordingly. And definitely begin your classes, get settled to verify your schedule and program requirements. We do talk about this a lot because sometimes, and a lot of times, students jump in into employment opportunities before they realize what the workload is like in their program. And your main objective here, we hope, is to excel in your program, and it's important that you have appropriate amount of time to work around the schedule and the requirements of that program. So again, research, 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 and feel free when you get here to PEI, come knock on our door. We would be so pleased to welcome you and help you in your process. So
Great. And I know that researching, doesn't sound like the most exciting part, but it is going to help you. So it really will kind of help speed up things once you're ready. Um, Again, these slides are going to be shared with you, so you can take a look at some of these resources, some other things to help you out. So SAM is the online platform where all of your courses are going to be managed. So our office, Retention, Part-Time Study and Career Services, we have a page that all students have access to. And there's a lot of career resources on there, all the links to job boards, resume guides, lots. So please check it out once you have access. Some other places to be researching companies and workforces. The Employment Journey PEI, that's another resource we like to promote as much as we can. They have a monthly publication. You'll see actual printed copies on campus every month, but then on their website, everything is there, industry profiles, and what they do, they only highlight and spotlight stories, people, anything relates to workforce. So there's no news, weather, politics, it's only employment. So it's a really great resource for getting familiar with the industries we have here in PEI. The employer database on Work PEI that I mentioned. When it comes to staying on top of job alerts, Work PEI on social media, that's really all they post are jobs that get posted. So it's another easy one to follow opportunities. And then this is a new one I found on Instagram. It's at Job Board PEI. Truthfully, I'm not sure who is running this, what organization, or if it's an individual person, but it's been great to learn about jobs that are on the go. So if you're on Instagram, that is another good one to check out. So we're wrapping up here. We'll take a look at some questions that have been in the chat. The other thing that we are going to share is a very brief survey for feedback on events, services, supports that you would like to see from Employment and Career Services. So we'd like to know, what events, what sessions are of interest, when you'd like to come to them. So in a moment here, I will share that link to that survey, and we would really appreciate, it's very brief. So if you just take a couple minutes to fill it out, that would be awesome. Next up, in terms of these virtual summer series sessions like today, as another friendly reminder, this Friday, July 28th, there is a session that will be specific to all things that relate to international students. So documents, applications, etc. That's hosted by Recruitment and First Year Advising. And then in 2 weeks' time, on Tuesday, August 8th, our student union is going to be doing a session. And the student union is an amazing resource. They facilitate the insurance, health benefits, etc., and do a lot of great events and supports for students. So check that out. Refer to your email for session times, how to sign up, the link for the MS Teams meeting, etc. And stay tuned for some possible other ones to come up as well. So thank you. We really, really
much.
appreciate it. This was a lot of fun, and we've been talking at you to the screen. So we're really excited for about a month or so whenever we can actually meet in person and have some great conversations. So I'm going to, well, I suppose I can leave that up. So we have our email address. This is the survey. I'm going to put it in the chat. Hopefully you can access, and I'll also see perhaps if the Recruitment First Year Advising team can share that link as well. So what I'll do, I'm going to try to catch up on the chat. Forgive me if I've missed a question you've asked, and we'll get to it. So question about plumbing apprenticeship for graduate students. So I think a lot of the strategies and places, in terms of looking for those positions would be applicable to the plumbing industry. Another wonderful resource is going to be your learning managers,
Absolutely.
your instructors. Yeah. A lot of programs at the college have a work integrated learning component, and on-the-job training or clinical, the terms kind of vary. We focus more on part-time, full-time employment opportunities. And then, some of those, kind of embedded course pieces are managed through your learning managers. So they are going to be another wonderful resource. Absolutely. I think for ways to research companies, positions for you as a plumber would be lots in terms of what we shared today. Companies available in Georgetown. Yes, I would say Georgetown is a much smaller community compared to Charlottetown. It's also very nearby Montague, which is a kind of a larger town in PEI. Again, my advice, especially the job boards or the employer database on Work PEI, maybe try filtering through location and you'll see what's there. But one thing to consider for sure is, places like Charlottetown, Summerside, Montague, you might be finding more opportunity compared to smaller communities. But again, PEI is small, so nothing is ever too far away. Proceeding if you've not received a response from the consulate in your home country. If this relates to permit or to admissions, I would say sending that email to international@hollandcollege.com or attending Friday's session would be a great idea. Where can I find this PDF? We will find a way to share these slides by email. So hopefully in a few days, we will get a copy of these to you. And then once you are able to access SAM, all of this information and more is also on our page. What do you mean by, would you mind, my apologies, would you mind touching on what you mean by work ethic?
Oh,
what do you think?
Well, are you on time? Are you dependable? Can we rely on you? Those are all important things, and it starts, you can get that reference and referral from your learning manager by showing up on time for your classes, being here. Your attendance is really important, following up on your classwork. Then that also in your past work experience or anything that you've done where you've displayed these attributes and soft skills. Employers here in Canada talk a lot about the soft skills, and that is your work ethic, basically. And that is, as I said, arriving on time. And it's not just on time. What employers like, let's say you're scheduled to work at 6 a.m. Well, you arrive at 5:45, 15 minutes before you're scheduled to go to work. These are things that will be noticed by employers. Um, how you complete a task, how you take criticism. These are all different areas. And Haley, what can you say about that?
Yeah, I echo all of what Susan shared. I think if you're in a position, if you were pitching your elevator pitch or writing in a cover letter, to try to really make that concise and highlight the top things, ask yourself, what are you known for? If you had to really briefly describe to an employer, what you have to offer, it's going to be those things. But exactly to Susan's point, I think work ethic taps in a little bit more to soft skills. And if that's a new term for you, it's your interpersonal skills. It's not your knowledge of Excel or a certain tool, but things like how you work with people.
Absolutely.
Those other great
Like
examples.
You could have had a teacher or a professor, learning manager in college somewhere that complimented you on the quality of your work. I think that's really important. And referencing back to referrals, if you have had any type of connection through sports or the arts, or you've worked, then ask for that feedback from the people that have known you, because that's testimony to what your work ethic is. So, and think about what are your strongest assets? What are the compliments that you receive from other people saying, you know what, you've done such a good job on this, this, and this. Reflect on that, and you'll come up with what our work ethic is. And again, we're here to help you through that. And I'm sure we'll touch upon this once you are here.
Next up, Manju, thank you so much for sharing. Manju has, described an employment scam that they've run into. I am very, very sorry that happened to you, but again, thank you for sharing to kind of emphasize that they're happening and they're getting smarter and smarter. We picked up on one that came into our job board. And the only reason is because I wasn't seeing, I like to check out the company website if I haven't heard from them. And I noticed that on the company website, their emails were .ca, but the one they submitted was .com. Everything else looked legitimate. So it's you really, and I know when you're really wanting to find a job and you just feel like you're going really fast, but it is important, just to make sure you're being careful about what you're applying to, what you're receiving. And if it feels off, I'd say stop, like don't proceed, don't share, don't follow up, and chat with someone. And we'll make a plan for the next step. How many hours can I work as a student? I guess my answer here is, if you were an international student, with a work permit, there's some regulations in place there. So I would suggest, connecting with their team or attending the session on Friday. But for all students, this also taps into, what can you realistically handle? If you were in class from 8:30 to 4, Monday to Friday, you have projects and assignments on top of that. You really, and then taking time for you, for, your mental wellness and spending time with family, friends, getting outside, whatever it might be. There's some technicalities related to permits, but also I think it's about, what can you realistically take on? And so it might be best to kind of start small. And then if you feel you can take on more or, work more hours during a holiday break or something.
I'd like to emphasize too, when you're researching employers and you're fortunate enough to meet with them, some of them are going to say, we want you for 40 hours a week. Well, please always remember you're a student and that's going to interfere with your studies. Again, maybe you can handle it. It's completely up to you, but you need to know what the expectations are. The job, as I said, can look too good or maybe awesome, but do you have the time? Do you have the hours to spend more time at work than you do at school? And sometimes working too many hours will affect your attendance and your ability to complete assignments. So keep that in consideration.
I see a question about sit-down exams. Unfortunately, we are not the right people to advise on that. I think it's going to vary by program, by course you're in. So once you get started in the fall, you'll have a program orientation. I think at that time you'll learn a lot about what your courses look like. And then as you get started in each of your different classes, you'll learn about assessment and what style it's in. Again, any questions specific to working eligibility as international students? We're just not trained or kind of certified to respond to those questions. And we have folks at the college who are. So again, I would suggest logging on Friday or sending an email to international@hollandcollege.com. Are we sending out the presentation? Yes, we will find a way to share these slides. Slide with emails. This one here, career services at hollandcollege.com, goes both to Susan and I. So you're welcome. You'll find us in the slides. You'll have our emails with our names. But career services is always the easiest place to start because we both monitor that account. Applying for a job before leaving my home country. We wouldn't advise on that, again, for the reason of just really figuring out your schedule. What I think you could really take advantage of between now and when you start your studies is researching, getting your resume up to date and identifying some companies you want to work on. Recording, I think this was recorded, yes. And this isn't the only time to access job search information. We're going to be doing kind of a kickoff job search jumpstart in September, and we'll do similar workshops lots. And you can always have an appointment one-on-one and we can review this information. Human resource classes, I would suggest touching base with the recruitment and first year advisors for questions about the program, how it's run. What about LinkedIn? Good for searching. Yes, I would say that I think LinkedIn as a job board is growing in PEI. Some bigger companies I find do tend to post their roles there. LinkedIn is an amazing tool for researching companies, contacts.
Career advice.
Yes, we'll be promoting LinkedIn often throughout the year. So I certainly do encourage you, if you don't have a profile, to get one or to update it. Job searching, yes, like I wouldn't say no, but I wouldn't say it's quite as popular as some of the others. But again, it's growing, so it's another great one to add to your list for sure. For any questions kind of specific to your program and industry, I just think based on time, it's more appropriate for us to have that one-on-one conversation. So if you want to learn about, demands and outlooks, labor market information related to your studies, send us an email and we can kind of get you started on some information there. Glassdoor,
Yep.
I would say similar to kind of LinkedIn. Maybe not the go-to site for promoting jobs, certainly active. So another one absolutely to look up. And Glassdoor, if you're not familiar, another amazing site for interview prep or researching a company. It's a cool source. For tuition fees, I would suggest contacting recruitment and first year advising. I believe you're kind of receiving regular emails from certain advisors, so that question would be best suited for them.
I'd like to go back to a question that you scrolled by. Do you need a car? And
Oh,
that
sorry.
goes back to what we discussed earlier in our presentation, that it's important to climatize to where you are located, whether it's in Charlottetown, Georgetown, Summerside. Will you require a car? Most of our international students do not have a car. So we recommend that you're looking for employers in the area in which you are living. So that's really important. I did see a lot of international students apply for jobs outside of Charlottetown this past year, and kind of realized afterwards that it was not in close proximity and that they couldn't possibly accept the job because they didn't have any transportation to get there.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And there is public transit, and it certainly seems to be getting better and better by the month. But now a few times I've said PEI is small, but if you're living in Charlottetown and your job is in Surrey, that's a decent commute, right? So again, rather than the strategy of applying everywhere, really take the time to research. Think about, where am I living? Where are my classes? And do that way, because otherwise you're wasting your own time and the employers by applying to jobs you know realistically you can't accept. Question about what to wear to interviews. This really depends by the type of job.
Yeah.
So I would say reach out to us. It's important that you're wearing clothing that makes you feel good, makes you feel confident, but also kind of portrays an image and a polished and, you know, a look that shows you're serious and invested about the role. But that doesn't always necessarily mean a suit and tie. So I would say reach out to us.
And we'll help you.
For
And that
further advice.
is dress for the job you want, but it's important. It goes back to your research. When you're researching that employer, how are their employees dressed? And if it's within walking distance, go visit the employer, go into the establishment and see how the employees are dressed. That'll give you a good idea of how you present yourself.
Mhm.
Our policy here at the Tourism and Culinary Center is casual business wear.
Mhm.
But feel good. That's if you feel good about how you look, you're going to portray that image to prospective employers. So make yourself feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking, I'm seeing some duplicates, some questions about prior experience, whether you previously did a degree or, you know, you've worked for several years before coming. Um, all experience is good experience. Okay. So if it's like, oh, it's not related to my field, or how do I do this? Whenever we're putting a resume together, and I said I wasn't getting into the resume session, but something we say is there's no right way to write a resume. It's about telling your story in a clear, concise manner that's really easy to follow for someone who knows nothing about you. So for some jobs, we might really talk about that previous studies, others not so much. And it really, I think, comes down to what you're applying to and the skills and qualifications that employer is looking for. But absolutely, your previous training, employment, volunteering, it all shapes who you are and what you have to offer. We just might find that we really display it more prominently for some jobs, but not others. And that is all dependent on the type of job or the type of company it is.
And we'll guide you if you are changing careers and you're not sure where you fit into your new career. We'll talk about transferable skills because
Yeah.
you've garnered a lot of experience and skills along the way. So we will direct you, and that'll help you match yourself to the job descriptions of the jobs that are posted.
Yeah. Thank you for that heads up about the SAM page. Possibly maybe it kind of switches at a certain date once we're closer to classes starting, but let us look into that. I know last year students had no issue accessing that information, so let us follow up.
I'll go back, Haley. There's a question here about here. How do you work around study permit when your visa application is still being processed? You have to wait. Approval, you have to have approval in order to work in Canada. So that work permit will be in your passport. So you have to prove when you're entering this country and to us and employer that you can legally work in this country.
And again, intricacies, really specific situations. There's folks at our college who can help answer those more
Absolutely.
detailed questions. So
That presentation, is it on Friday?
Friday.
With the international.
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. So that wraps things up. Thank you so much, everyone, for so again, we're really sorry we can't share more about permits, but we just don't really have that training and knowledge, but there's folks at the college who do. So you can email international@hollandcollege.com, or we really strongly recommend you attend the session on Friday.
Absolutely.
Where they'll cover a lot of these great pieces, and there you can get your questions answered. So we're well over time. Thank you so much for coming. If you have any further questions, you can reach us at careerservices@hollandcollege.com. And, you know, we look forward to meeting you. There will be lots of information coming from our office, but please feel free to reach out in the meantime. So safe travels, whether you're coming from, you know, Cove Head or Mermaid here in PEI or from a different continent. We're really looking forward to meeting you, and we hope you have safe travels, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much for joining us. I hope the session has been helpful for you.
Take care.
Looking forward to meeting you. Bye.